Happy Friday, guys, and welcome to another episode of Let's Talk Dubs. I'm your host, Bill T. Well, it's Friday and another podcast coming out you first thing in the morning. And on this week's podcast, I've got Tory Alonso. He's been on the podcast the past couple times. We're continuing a conversation about some feedback with what we talked about with the 80s, some of the VW scene, and a little bit of that. But before we get into that, I want to remind you guys to make sure you support our sponsors, VW Trends Magazine, a magazine for the people, by the people. Go subscribe today at vwtrendsmagazine.com, and you'll get to see them if you come to One Crazy Weekend. So VW Trends Magazine will be live on the scene here. Also, don't forget Ross Wolf, high-quality aftermarket parts made for enthusiasts by enthusiasts. So when you guys come to One Crazy Weekend, get to meet the guys at Ross Wolf and check out their stuff. They've got quite a bit of cool product. They're coming out with new stuff all the time, and these two guys are in the hobby because they love it. They're not out to make a quick buck. They're out to provide some quality stuff to the scene, so make sure you guys check them out. Also, this podcast is brought to you by MB as well. MB is our main sponsor for One Crazy Weekend this year, and I want to remind you guys that One Crazy Weekend is only 4.5 short weeks away. In 4.5 weeks, pre-registration is off the hook. I need you guys to book your rooms now. Make sure you book your rooms because I don't want you guys being out of luck without a room when you show up in Vegas. So book them. They're cheap. Wednesday, Thursday, $40 a night. Friday, Saturday, $90 a night, plus asterisk a $40 resort fee per night. So that's what it's going to cost you to park at that's what it's going to cost you to get a room at the Orleans Hotel and Casino for One Crazy Weekend. We're going to have some stuff popping off on Thursday, which we'll talk about during the podcast, but make sure you guys go and book your rooms. Go to letstalkdubs.com, click on the icon right on the main page, the flyer for One Crazy Weekend this year, and it says book your rooms here. Click there, book your rooms. Got a ton of rooms booked already. They've opened up more rooms. Get those rooms booked because the hotel likes to book them out 30 days in advance. So that way, these guys can have rooms allocated and they don't have to worry about filling these rooms because when it gets close to the date, they go full scale. And if you guys have been checking prices, you know what it costs to stay in Vegas normally. So get a deal, great parking, secured parking, all the good stuff. Go to letstalkdubs.com for the rest of the information. But without any further ado, guys, we're going to get into this week's podcast. Again, we're going to be freestyling this week with Bill and Tory Alonso on Let's Talk Dubs this week. So let's get into it.
You probably don't know that there's a new Volkswagen out that doesn't look like a Volkswagen. It's got everything that people who like the bug like.
Tory, what's going on, brother?
What's going on, Bill T? Thanks for having me back, man.
Yeah, so we had a podcast last two podcasts we were kind of chatting about some stuff. Well, I did one, then you did some feedback, and so we kind of kicked it around the last one, and so I got a lot of response. We got a lot of response from the past couple podcasts that we did, but I just wanted to read a couple of those, couple of the emails that I got from some of these people. And let's start here. A lot of people were commenting on the Instagram post that I had out there, and there was, I think the big thing is they were really, what was resonating with a lot of people was kind of the show car scene, where that's at, and all that good stuff. Let me see here, and of course, as I'm looking for it, I'm stumbling to find some of the not One Crazy Weekend, but the podcast feedback. So let me see. But there's a couple other things going on. I did want to read a couple podcast reviews real quick that we got recently from some of the listeners. So if you guys haven't given us, we're over 300 reviews. So go Apple Podcasts and give us a review, guys, and let us know what you think of the podcast. But
I'm always curious if we've ruffled feathers or not, because it's kind of a touchy subject, right? I mean, everybody's got an opinion on, where the VW scene is going. A lot of people have fond memories of the VW scene in the past. So I'm always curious to see if we're kind of on target with the rest of the scene, or, if people are just no, adamantly not, that's not the case. So I'm always curious to hear the feedback.
Absolutely. And some of the stuff that we get is a lot of people that are, so I got Matthew Ward here, says, "Hey Bill, you're really onto something regarding the trend in VW show cars lately." And then he suggests, have you ever considered one of these guys? He says some really cool stuff with VWs. He suggests Ian Russell with, I can't think of the name of his car show. He builds custom cars, a lot of wild custom 50 style cars, but he does a lot of VW platforms. And I can't think of the name of his show, his TV show. But Ian Russell, I've reached out to him a couple times, so we're kind of working together on some of that. So he'll be on the podcast coming up soon. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm trying to see where, let's see. Yeah, got lots of, a lot of stuff. And let's see, where am I at here? But other than that, Tory, what kind of feedback did you get as I locate these emails? What kind of feedback were you getting?
I did get a lot of DMs at my Instagram, because that's normally how I contact people and kind of talk back and forth with people. And I did get a lot of feedback, and I would say all of it was positive. Everyone pretty much agreed. And there were a few people that I'd actually kind of talked back and forth. We talked it out, and we're like, yeah, definitely, like the lack of promoted car shows and, the crowds being smaller has definitely had an effect. But, I don't remember who I was talking to. I don't remember if it was Ryan Corno or I don't remember who it was, but we were talking. And also, I think that, like, the fact that print magazine isn't what it was in the 80s and 90s, I think that also kind of contributes to what we're seeing in, like, a lack of wild custom show cars. Because look, when we were in high school, you and I are kind of the same age. We grew up on those magazines, right? And I think that was always like a bucket list item for us. Like, nothing cooler than to have your own car. I was happy to have like a little small picture inside the magazine, let alone, if you were to ever have a car on the cover. I think that's kind of what people our age, like, wanted. That's what we aspired to have, to build a car like that. But now everything is just on Instagram. Everything's just on, you can find pictures of anything anywhere on social media, Facebook, Instagram, whatever. So it's not as special, I don't think. I would love to know the numbers of, like, readership and where they are now versus where they were, late 80s, early 90s. Because I would imagine that that's probably plummeted quite a bit because nobody does print anymore.
Yeah, interestingly enough, that has it's a difficult number to get because they guard it quite safely. And what you used to notice is in the magazines before, they would publish their circulation and all that stuff. Every once a year, they'd put it out in the magazine as far as what they had and how many subscribers they had and all that stuff. And it was valuable for them to be able to tell people, who their, how many what the readership is and all that good stuff. So, it's been interesting because I've spoken to a few people, and what's interesting is I was at a car show just recently. And while I was at that car show, there was some talk about a particular magazine and some readership and some subscription. And I was shocked, to say the least, as far as the subscription number. And then someone said to me, "Oh, no, that's not the number." They really were kind of doing some backpedaling, like, that's not the number. That guy doesn't know what he's talking about. And I was just kind of like, oh, I was really surprised the number I heard, and it wasn't super high. And I think maybe some of that stuff has to be with the direction that, the magazines go, because obviously whatever you're putting in the magazine is what you're going to get back from the people. And so if your magazine only kind of focuses on one segment of the scene, you're going to lose other people that are in the same scene, so.
For sure. Absolutely. And that's what I loved about Hobby W's back in the day is, like, they would devote one issue to, you'd have the Sand special in October, you'd have the Cowlick special, I loved that they did that. I had a subscription, so it didn't matter. I was going to get them no matter what, but, like, they would do like a Baja Roundup issue, or they would do a vintage. I believe the vintage issue was always in July. Like, I loved that about Hobby W's. But that would be a really interesting question. I know you still talk to, like, Dean Kirsten and RK Smith. Like, I would imagine that they would know what year they had the highest circulation. I would love to know what year that was, because I would imagine it's probably mid to late 80s was when they peaked.
I'm going to want to say around 87 was like their biggest year. I remember having a conversation with RK and actually also with Dean Kirsten about their peak peak advertisers, because really that's what kind of drives it, right? How many advertisers you got, and
100%,
as well as besides advertisers, how many subscribers you have. And I think they were up to like, I think at one time they were at 300,000 subscribers or something like that, which is
wow,
it's quite a bit
bananas.
if you think about it, right? So
it is for one, for a very particular car. I mean, that's pretty insane. And I mean, look, it shows, because if you pick up, not to knock Hot VWs, I mean, it's still a great magazine, but if you pick up the magazine, it's skinny. You go back to your back issues from the 80s. I mean, that thing was thick, and it's because of the advertising. Right. I mean, you've got 6 and 8 page ads from Johnny Speed and Chrome or Barrett Enterprises, or all these. I remember when the latest Rage was like the big mail order place. I mean, they took out huge ads because they were selling that many parts, but everything's on the internet now, so you don't really get that print ad momentum like you used to have, which is pretty crazy.
Yeah, there's again, and it's also things have changed, right? So with respect to the media of who's advertising where, a lot of people, obviously my podcast does mostly advertising through just the podcast, and my One Crazy Weekend is mostly some flyers dropped off at a couple shows. Other than that, it's mostly through the podcast, and we get a pretty substantial turnout from that. And
absolutely,
it's like I've got an ad in one of the magazines, but I think magazines are more for people that that are into collecting things, So
yeah, most definitely.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's got a lot to do with respect to the popularity of a magazine, right? Like a lot of the younger kids are not even kind of into it. For them, a magazine is like what? I mean, because really, ultimately, Instagram is like a magazine in your pocket. I mean, that's how I reference it to like boomers and stuff like that that don't know what it is. I'm like, dude, it's like having a magazine in your pocket. So
it's so true. And it's instant gratification as well. I mean, you can open Instagram, and if, it's Prado weekend or whatever, like you're seeing cars in real time as they're showing up and parking and whatever else. Back in the day, if you didn't make that show in, the VW Classic or whatever it was, you had to wait 3 months to find out what was there. Right, I mean, that's right. Just how long it took, and I remember friends that had cars in the magazine, and that there was that whole waiting part of like, oh, is it going to be this month when my car is going to be on the cover? Is it going to be this month? But now everything's so instant gratification that it's almost made magazines obsolete, which is kind of funny.
Yeah. Well, let's take a listen. Let's listen to a listener email. This is from Dustin Fisher, and he says, "Hello, Bill. I'm a big fan of the podcast. After listening to the latest 2 episodes, I wanted to share my opinion on some things. I didn't see the social media posts, as I have deleted the apps and have been taking a break from that stuff. So who am I? My name's Dustin Fisher, 38 years of age. I've been into VWs for 34 years. My dad had VWs in high school and just after, back when they were regular cars, and he rented the original Herbie movie, The Love Bug, for me. It was over from that moment. We subscribed to Hot VWs, VW Trends, and picked up VW Custom Classic wherever I saw it. I've attended shows since the mid-90s, and I got my first bug, a 1971 Super Beetle, for $250 at 12 years old. Had 4 bugs by the time I was 16, and I've never looked back. I attended Universal Technical Institute in Glendale Heights, Illinois, and graduated with an education in automotive and diesel technology. Grew up in Fenville, Michigan, a little lake town near the shore of Lake Michigan. The scene in Michigan is good. Well, it used to be anyway. Back in 2006, I decided to start my own club. There have been a few in the area, but they had folded. With the help of a few friends, I started the Good Volks Michigan Air-Cooled VW Club. 2006, after seeing a gap in the car club world in my area, I started a car club with help of a few local friends. The premise was simple: no dues, no requirements. We gained popularity by having a welcome, helpful attitude anyone was welcome. We were based in Holland, Michigan area, but held monthly get-togethers in multiple areas of Michigan to get more people on board. We had our own shows, the Good Volks Charity Show and Swap, a benefit for leukemia, lymphoma, a disease that took my grandfather, a few members of the club. We also started the US 131 Bug Run, a show swap drag race for after a long event folded. In addition to the shows and monthly get-togethers, we held tech sessions, Christmas party, built a show calendar for the surrounding area, cruise in large groups. At our peak, we'd get 100 people, monthly meetups, and 150 or so at our Christmas parties. We had nearly 800 members on our forum. Life was good, but as life does, it gets busy and it's gone by the wayside, and mostly exists as a Facebook group. Perhaps I will take back the reins and start it up again. I'm also into water cool VWs. And he goes on to tell us some more about his history. And then it says these events and clubs had something in common: a welcome, warm, and approachable feeling. If someone new pulled up or walked in, they were greeted, asked a question about themselves, and included included in what was happening. This brings me to one of my first points about your latest episode: the social media effect. People are mean. I see it all the time. Anyone that posts something outside of the norm is roasted as if they ask a newbie type question. They're insulted, called name, pushed away. So what does that do? Causes stagnation, lack of creativity. Sadly, you had mentioned we see everything now and not at events. Why is the current group of enthusiasts stagnant? Old dudes who have been doing this their whole lives and have lived all of their styles just now prefer a clean bug with wheels and a big engine. We have not done a good job of staying relevant to a younger generation. Some of this is just the natural aging of a vehicle. Back in the 90s, 30-year-old bug was still comparable. Now look at a 30-year-old car. Basic options are staggering compared to an air-cooled VW. You're also not typically just happening upon a bug for sale on the side of the road for $500. Now that little part I don't necessarily agree with. You have to seek these cars out. There are endless factors. The scene is getting cliquey. Hatred towards 68 and later cars. Absolute loathing of Super Beetle and a period of absolute bad quality parts. Since we have shut ourselves off from newcomers, a lot of them are having trouble getting cars. Got made fun of, made investments in poor quality parts, and got burnt out. Even if you do not want to admit it, the cost to enter the hobby and perceived value of the cars will contribute to stagnation as well. Or pay may have gone up, but it's not the rate to increase absolutely everything. There are a few shops out here that work on these cars willingly, and if they bring them in, the labor rate is typically higher, and the techs are not familiar with carburetors or points ignition. So what happens? Higher repair costs and dissatisfaction. Also, likely not properly prepared. Remind me of a story with Stavros. Our lack of welcoming the community is causing this as well. So your show's a great idea. You have a good thing with the debut award, but instead of forcing it, he brought up a good point here. Why not have an award for people under 30 who bring out a car? There can be multiple classes of young dubbers, and their cars can be awarded based on age. Get new blood in the hobby, and you'll get new ideas and different builds. I have tons of ideas for this, but this email's long as hell already. I think Gen Z will start to bring people back around the trades. They seem to care about themselves, the Earth community. Let's hope we get them involved and keep them going. Let's see. Yeah, and last point, in the beginning of your podcast, you mentioned someone's asking, do you know a good painter? And you reinforce that you must have a lot of money if you want a good paint job. Why is this the case? I see it all over the people on social media destroy people who want to restore a car with a 40 to 50 grand budget. This makes classic cars unapproachable. It's not just in the automotive scene. While renovating my house, you had a lot of trouble getting people to show up. He says, people want to figure out, so what happens? People want to figure out doing themselves. They ask questions and they get torched. So they turn away and leave. So he says, I go on and on. Hopefully there's something here that resonates with you. Take care. So that's Dustin left a pretty big email. We got a lot on that plate there. Anything in particular he said you want to touch on?
I honestly agree with just about everything you said.
Right.
And, it's funny. I went and bought parts for this project Baja that I'm working on the other day at our local shop. It's called Foreign Aid. And they even said, they were like, we're having a problem. I asked them, hey, what is the air-cooled scene like here? Do you guys have a lot of cars? And they said, honestly, it's getting harder and harder to find techs that know how to work on these cars, which is crazy. I never thought that would happen because it's such a simple car once you learn it. But,
right.
Everybody, techs nowadays are so used to just plugging, a computer into an OBD port and then the computer telling them what's wrong with the car, that you don't really have the DIY troubleshooting, type of mentality like we all grew up doing.
Right.
Which is pretty crazy. And I think he brings up a really good point that, like, for the people that aren't mechanically inclined, which is a lot of younger people these days,
Yeah.
It's just a different thing now. And so that's actually a really good point.
Well, I also agree with the fact that sometimes it's not so friendly, right? When I remember Bob Cook, when he came out to the West Coast, he's like rolled up to a car show. He came out to the Classic, towed cars all the way across the country. And he's like, bro, he said in his podcast, these guys were just jerks, man. He didn't say that, but I mean, he's a little more expressive than that, but he did not feel like welcome, like, hey man, what's up, VW guy? Like, he felt judged.
Because he's an East Coaster,
right?
Like, he's not in the clique, man.
And that's kind of whack, dude. I mean, that whole clique thing is kind of lame, and And
I mean, he built some of the cleanest cars out there. That dude's had so many cars in magazines, it's not even funny. So why that guy was not welcomed with open arms, I have no idea.
Well, again, and I
love Bob.
It's kind of a, we have this tendency to think that we're just because we're all VW people, we're all cool with each other. But then you get kind of in Southern California and you see a lot of the cliques, right? Because the car clubs got kind of issues with each other or whatever, or who knows. There's always something like that going on. And, I think it's one of those deals where if you're not familiar or know the lay of the land, or somebody doesn't come out of their way and say like, hey, what's up, buddy? How are you? We were chatting with him at the, I remember when he pulled up at the host hotel. He was staying at the Crown Plaza, and I saw Bob pull up with a trailer pulled up. I think he had a pink oval, not like a coral color oval. He came out like super fast car. This has got to be like 2007,
Everything he builds is fast.
2007 or 2010. I can't remember what year he came up, but it was around that time. And he's from Maryland, and it's a little different style out there, but still he brought a proper car out. Cool. But he didn't feel like people were super welcoming out here. And I get it, man, and that's what the thing with One Crazy Weekend is like. My favorite thing is like a bunch of the people that drive up from Bakersfield, you know what I mean? Like just the B Volks crew. And they're just like a tight VW club that they just got cars are in all different levels of condition, but they're Volkswagen enthusiasts, and they roll together, they drive together, and they're, these guys are on it. I mean, it's a group I can use. It's like they just roll up because they love the car. They love the hobby. You know what I mean? They roll into town, they have a great time. So
that's super cool. And not everywhere is like that, because I remember the first time I met Bob, I was living in Orlando, and we had a show every year in Daytona Beach, and he had towed down he had a maroon split window turbo. And I mean, that was, prior to like turbos being a more,
I think you mean Bordeaux red.
Yeah, Bordeaux red.
I don't mean to be a snob.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Yeah, no. I'm glad you called me out. Yeah, it's a Bordeaux red split turbo. Huge turbo on this thing. And when he took it off the trailer, all of our jaws dropped. We were more of like a cowlick based club in Orlando. Like most of us had like IDAs and kind of the, nose down look. And this car was like, whoa. I feel like we were all pretty welcoming, just because it was cool to see something new, around Florida, it's kind of the same thing. Like, you go to Bug Jam every year in Dade City, and it's kind of the same stuff. Like, the cars from year to year, but when a new car would drop, it was always cool. And there was a club that was based in Georgia. I don't know if you remember these guys, but they were called the BK Cruisers. Mm-hmm. And those guys would always kind of debut a new car, and they had some really, really nice cars. This is like early 2000s era. But they always used to debut a new car, and we were always like totally cool with, anyone that would come out with a new car or was from out of state, just because it's nice to see new stuff. But yeah, I don't know what the deal is with California, but it is definitely kind of like that out there. It's weird, and hopefully they're getting away from that. But I believe it,
Well, I think what happens is, out there, it's so kind of the VW thing is so exclusive. Like, no, you got to have an oval or better, or you got to have this look car or better. And then people finally get in that, and then they treat the next guy that way, that he can't kind of be in it or something. And I've always just did my own thing, which is why a lot of the people that I connect with are like the guys that are really into the hobby, but they're not like, they're not like the cliquey type people, like there's just a lot of people, when I met. And that's what I love about listening to the podcast, right? There's a lot of dudes, a lot of my boys from the Type 3 Army, just laid back, welcoming dudes, you know what I mean? Lionel, Tristan,
Absolutely.
Justin, like all those guys, just way cool, dude. Like when I go up to the Bay Area, and I go up there to Kelly Park, a lot of dudes up there, Brian, Supalo, and a lot of guys like that, just laid back. Yep. And my homeboy Miguel Zepeda and Tony Marisi, like all those dudes. I met those guys from coming to the Vegas show. They came to the Vegas show and they were like, bro, this dude won't shut up on the mic. And that was me at the raffle, just ripping people in the audience. Like I said, it was like a roast before there was roast, bro. And it was funny. I was dying laughing, dude. These guys were cracking up and we just kind of hit it off. Some people were probably like, shut him up, get him off stage. But my boys that I became boys with a long time after that, like they were just like into it. They were totally digging it. And that's what like a show should be something that everybody's stoked to go to, right? You're going to go there. You're going to see cars you've only seen in the magazine. Then you're going to see, you're going to meet people from all different areas. And that's why I think with Vegas being like neutral ground, right? Like people from, we get a big crew from Salt Lake. We get a big crew from Phoenix. We get a big crew from Southern California, like the Wolfsburg Finest comes out, the Midlife Cruisers, like a lot of those clubs come out. Desert Dubs is coming out this year from Phoenix.
You're in a good location. It's like a good central location to pull from all of these major cities where VWs are a big deal. The scene in Salt Lake City, I think, is pretty big.
No, it's strong. We got Pandraggers coming out. We got the guys from Salt City Air Coolers, I think is what their club's called. But those guys are coming out. Eric with Eric Allred, Ready Motorsports, all those guys. I have yet seen my transporter crew out. No, I take that back. Joe McRae came out one year. So, but yeah, there's a lot of guys from all over come, and Vegas is like this neutral hub where people can kind of get together and kick it. And it's really it's like a come one, come all environment in Vegas. It's not everybody here is technically a visitor. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So I think, that's a really positive thing that I look forward to. That's what this year, obviously we've got people coming from the UK. I got people from Scotland, the UK. And if you'll notice a little blurb that I did we've got Lanny Hussey coming down from Vancouver, British Columbia. So one of the things, since this is, I'm sure everybody's like, oh, this is just a generic plug for a show, but listen, bro, it's the baddest show you've ever been to. So you're going to want to go. Lanny Hussey's coming down. He's making a custom award. I just saw the custom award that Spike's making. So Spike's building an award to give away at the show. Lanny Hussey's building an award to give away at the show. And Buddy Hale's building an award to give away at the show. So these guys are building awards. So what's even cooler is like these guys are going to pick cars they like. And it's going to be what resonates with them. I don't necessarily think it has to be the cleanest, like it's just whatever. Like I dig that. I like that idea. It's original. It's their choice to give the award to what they want to. Now Buddy's award may be for the top debut car, so I know that there's a couple cars that are going to be debuting down here, so I'm excited to see that. But it's that kind of stuff that's fun, right? And speaking of Lanny Hussey, he built a car for a guy named Joe Cormier that was on the cover of Hot VWs, I want to say in 2009. And I'll pull the year up, but it was a black 69 turbocharged, fuel injected, had a dual gas tank where one side was 106, one side was 91. And
that's trick.
And it was on the cover of Hot VWs. Let me see what year it was. It was, if I'm not mistaken, it's 2009, and I'll tell you as soon as I see it. But it was freaking. It's one of the cars. When I was at the Grand National Roadster Show last year, I said, if this building burns down, I'm saving that car, because it's like, for me, it was like my dream car. It was, and what I mean by that is it's fuel injected, has Fiske wheels on it. I think 17-inch Fiske wheels. It's freaking so dope. And for me, I'm that guy. I'm like, I love like techie cars. I love stuff like that. And some people, it's not their jam, but for me, and maybe that's my connection, right, to the 80s is like, in the 80s, it was like, try to make your car as modern as possible. And this car, okay, so here it was on the cover of September 2008. And it's Joe Cormier's, it says, over the top 68 dual fuel turbo car. I mean, it's sitting on Fiske wheels. This car is immaculate, beautiful. It's black. The rear parcel tray has been flipped around so that the whole turbo setup sits behind the fan shroud. So all you see is
I remember that was the trick, man. That was the trick.
This car is so freaking dope. And
I remember seeing it at the GNRS. That was 2 years ago, I think.
I probably drug you over to it and said, this is my favorite car here, dude. That little roll cage.
Yep,
it was just like,
I remember. Yeah, we had that talk.
It wasn't freaking laid out like it was built to get. And that car has just recently been purchased by somebody who's bringing it down here to One Crazy Weekend. Matter of fact, it's being delivered to my house in the next week or so. And
nice.
I told the guy who owns it, I said, well, since it's going to be at my house, I'm going to have to do a video on the car. I'm going to do, because I've been wanting to do this for a while. I've been wanting to do a driving video with the car. Like, you see a cool show car, you see something, and then I it's similar to like that Autotopia channel where he just drives these cars and does all this stuff. And I'd love to see that with Volkswagen, like Volkswagen built show cars. Like, take it for a drive and give your feedback. Like, drives nice, handles good. This is perfectly built, whatever, or it's kind of clunky and kind of this and kind of that, but just really,
I think people would watch that. I mean, if you did like a video on Future Shock, like how cool would that be? Like,
right.
People are so used to seeing that like on a magazine or whatever else. Like, no, you're going to actually take the thing out, drive it, give a review, an honest review, of what it's like to drive an 80s show car or, chop rod or, that's really cool. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah. Right. The chop rod's a monster, dude. Rag chop rod.
Well, what's funny is I haven't seen that car since you put the supercharger on it. So
bro, that car rips, dude. Like that. That supercharger made such a difference in that little motor. It just flat out, it gets it. It's like sport bike fast. Like, you twist the throttle and you go where you're looking. Like, it's just zing, and it's a little 1800, low compression 1800. And George just put out a video on his YouTube channel where they put one on a Mexican 1600 long block that they put in the back of a double cab. And so they just said that thing just spins the R super quick. It's got a stock flywheel, all that stuff. But the cool thing so if you think about putting that supercharger like on a bus, the cool part about it is when you're driving a bus, right, you're gonna be traveling, you'll be hitting grades and all that stuff. Well, when you use a supercharged motor, turbocharged motor, it compensates for the thin air by the boost pressure. So it doesn't necessarily lean out, so it would be pretty cool to be able to kind of cruise up the hill and just give it a little bit of boost pressure and just move right up the hill. So that's
for sure.
One of the reasons
buses need all the help they can get getting up hills, man. For sure.
That's going to be that's one of the reasons why I'm turbocharging the double cab. So I've already got a turbo from Turbos Direct. The guys over there set me up with a turbo. We talked about it. They want to build more than 10 pounds of boost, given the displacement of the motor. They set me up with a turbo. So hopefully within the next, I got a lot of stuff stacked in different orders. I got Zorba the Gia coming back. And then when Zorba the Gia comes back, the Bull Run bus should be back. And I'm going to get that thing put together. I get the motor that's going to go in that. I took the Jake Raby motor out because it's in the double cab now, the 2.3 liter. That motor, the double cab will get the motor pulled out, top end freshen up, bolt a turbo on it, and then put it back in the double cab. Then the Bull Run bus is going to get the 2.6 liter that was in the double cab with the 48 IDAs, because that car's got now the hydraulic suspension. It's going to have the big motor. It's going to be all set to get down to business. So that car will be done. And then I've got my GTV bug that Mike Mays is working on, Punk Rock Garage. Go check him out. That car may be done. There's one other thing I wanted to talk about that's going to happen at One Crazy Weekend. So my friend Ronnie, his dad passed away. Well, his dad owned a 65 oval window ragtop bug that was on the cover of Hot VWs back in 1995. And it was Dale Ford's. It was a red bug with black candy scallops on it. That was a 65 that had an oval window rear section in it. Super nice. Dale Ford was a painter. It's 1995. It is the January issue of 1995. So Ronnie's dad bought that car, and Ronnie's dad has passed away just recently. So Ronnie reached out to me and goes, dude, what do you think about, like, I do a GoFundMe for my mom, and whoever, just raffle the car off. And if you donate $100, we get a raffle ticket, and we'll just raffle the car off. So the car will be on display at One Crazy Weekend. And here's your chance to own a 90s show car that's in pretty nice shape. And it had a little bit of a fender bender, and they changed. The fenders are no longer candy apple. The fenders are the same red as the hood, but the scallops are still on the car. Okay. So it's a pretty cool car. And if you go check out the 1995 January issue of Hot VW, you'll see it on the cover. And it's, I don't know what they called it, the Desert Cruiser or whatever. So they always call something, refer to something as, the Las Vegas Looker, scalloped 65 oval streeter. And it was built by a guy named Dale Ford here in Vegas. And so that car is obviously going to be a rust-free car that you may have a chance to win that thing. And hopefully we get his mom a little bit of money since his dad passed away, and somebody gets to enjoy the car. So it's like a win-win for everybody, right? Rather than him just try to sell the car. So,
absolutely. And that ties right back to what we were talking about, how everyone's complaining that, it's too expensive, you can't find anything. Here's a turnkey car for $100 you could potentially buy.
Right. So, I mean, and it's a good cause, right? Every time I see a GoFundMe going up for somebody, I'm always dipping in my pocket and like, I'll throw them, and I'm doing it mostly.
For sure, because you want someone to do the same for you, if you fell under hard times. So, no, that's good karma.
Right.
Sure.
So, so there's a lot happening, but again, back to this email that was written by my guy Dustin, we're gonna, we're hoping to change some things with respect to a little bit of the vibe from One Crazy Weekend. Just try to.
I definitely agree with the whole mean people suck thing, because they do. Look, we need all the help we can get with this hobby. We need, we're kind of a minority group now. We need to lift each other up and help each other out, and kind of encourage everyone else to get back into this scene. And I think you're going to have a really cool vibe at this show. I'm really looking forward to it.
We do. Listen, Tory, you haven't been before. And when you come here, bro, I was talking to Andy today. He's like, mate, I'm so excited. He says, you have no idea how, he's like, it's almost ridiculous how excited I am to get to Vegas and go to the show. He's like, cause it's just such a fun weekend, just hanging out there, buddy, just cruising the strip, all that stuff. And, I want to say that back when I had my first club, Slow and Low, if you had a Volkswagen, man, and you were into it, you were in the club. Like, it didn't have to be show car. I had a girl, Terry. Terry had she was from Oklahoma. She had the Oklahoma Looker. Oh, no, I'm sorry, Nebraska. She's from Nebraska. So she had the Nebraska Looker. It was like super nice bug, pink pinstriping on it, 62 rag top. But it had
nice
Baja wheels with low profile tires on it, and it wasn't slam, but it was like the perfect Nebraska Looker. And she was in there. I had another dude named Kirby. He was in the club. I don't even remember his name, dude. Kirby was in my club. He had a Super Beetle, and I called him Kirby because he had parking curbs under the hood to lower the car. So you pop the hood. He had like 2 parking curbs underneath the front, concrete parking curbs to lower the front of the car. But
that's cheaper than a sway away beam,
That's it. Well, it's Super Beetle too at the time, right? Like, you have a Super Beetle, it's impossible, bro.
Yeah, they didn't have the parts for that stuff. Impossible. I mean, I remember that was a big deal when they came out with the lowered struts.
There's no way to lower this.
Game changer.
Well, yeah, when you get a pair of $400 front struts for the front of that thing and they paid $300 for the car, it's like, what am I doing here?
Yeah, exactly. The math did not math with those custom cars for sure.
No, and so it's definitely something that is again, people love coming to this event because it's kicking off. We're going to have a little BMX display here downstairs near the room where we will be finalizing the poker run. We're going to have a vintage BMX display set up in there, so some people can check that out. As it grows over the next couple years, maybe we'll move it up to a banquet room, but right now we've got a big section in this room where we all meet up after the poker run. So when you meet up for the poker run, everybody comes into one big room, and there's the final table, right? Everybody gets in line. You come to the table, you get dealt your last card, and then your hand, if you get a great hand, it gets pulled to the side, and you get to the side, and then we see who gets the top hand. And then at the end of that gathering, there's going to be a way, there's going to be a random way where there's going to be another opportunity for more people to win some cash. We're coming up with a little around the back surprise. So
nice.
I'm excited about it. Again, it's just a show that just when you think it's done.
I'm definitely with Andy on that,
done.
man. It's all I've been thinking about lately. Like Bob Daniels and I talk, daily now, and he's doing a bunch of stuff to his buggy to make it, really cool for the show. And he's like going out of his way to pick me up in Albuquerque on the way so we can get there a little early and help set up for the show. So I'm excited about spending a couple extra days in Vegas now. So yeah, I'm with you, Andy. I'm like super stoked too, man. It'll be fun.
And so on Thursday, for those guys that get here early Thursday, there's going to be some events. Right now, I have the Punk Rock Museum giving 25% off to anybody that's part of One Crazy Weekend to go check out the Punk Rock Museum. So you get 25% off of that. I've also got mini Grand Prix. The DJ's over there. He's the manager over there, but he also DJs. He's going to be DJing the event on Saturday. He's going to be DJ the car show. And I'm looking forward to DJ Renegade's name. Looking forward to that. But he's also going to Thursday, we'll be doing some discounts for Las Vegas Mini Grand Prix, which is like a little go-kart place. So if you're in town early like a day and you just want to cruise around, you'll be able to go check out some extra sites, get a little discount, and kind of be able to cruise your Volkswagen around Vegas. So Thursday, it's kind of a chill day. Get to town early, and then you can be there for the pre warm up, because the parking lot will be set up on Thursday. And as this show grows, it will grow. It won't grow into a Sunday thing. I'll always leave Sunday for travel. It will grow into a Thursday thing. So it'll be a Thursday, Friday, Saturday thing. And, rumor on the street is that, Johnny Osmondson is going to be doing something out there. For some of you guys that are into, racing and stuff like that, you might want to hit up Johnny, see what he's got going on, but he's got something that's going to be happening. So there's tons of stuff that's going on. So
lots of developments, man. And I would imagine there's only going to be more the closer we get to the dates.
There's a couple of things I'm working on I haven't gotten confirmation on yet. If those things pop off, then being here Thursday will be an advantage to you. And I mean, plus the room's $40, dude, or $80 for the night. I mean, come on, dude, to stay in a nice hotel and to have 24-hour security, watching your car and all that stuff, it's pretty legit.
Well, and to just be able to go downstairs, go down an elevator and then see all these cars in the parking lot like that. Oh, yeah. We talked about this last week. That's always one of my favorite parts of like going to a VW show is just walking around the parking lot and, talking to people and looking at the cars, just parked there. It's like so cool.
Yeah, no, it's good stuff. And one of the things, I did want to give a shout out to my guy, Blake Hathaway, and he's with Lufhause and Lufhause. So we got talking about some stuff from the 80s, and I was talking a little bit back about some of the vintage Fosgate stuff that I have that I'm working on for the Chop Top. And
nice.
I got the subwoofer box back together, cleaned up, re-glued the mirrors and stuff inside it. And I've got.
Did it still have the original? Because I remember that thing had like Rockford Fosgate sponsorship, right, back in the day.
Yeah, they might have got a little discount, but I know he bought a lot of that Rockford Fosgate stuff. There was a lot of Fosgate stuff that was in there.
Oh, for sure. I mean, one of the covers, I think it actually had a decal on the windshield. Did it not? Like a white decal that said Rockford Fosgate, which was like the audio stuff when I was in high school.
Correct.
Like the Punch series stuff, like that's when I was in high school and that came out, and that was like the stuff.
Oh yeah, like it was legit. If you had the Punch, bro, you were the business. And so this thing had the Punch, everything. I think it had 16 speakers in it. And as of right now, so it had two 10-inch Super Pro or two 10-inch Pro chrome basket subwoofers that I re-surrounded. The surrounds were all chattered on, so I re-surrounded those. I have four 5.25 mids that I re-surrounded, two 3-inch mid-range that I re-surrounded, and then I picked up a set on a classifieds in Salt Lake City. Some guy had a set of 4-inch audiophile Rockford Fosgate 4-inch woofers. And then I've got a set of Fosgate tweeters and stuff like that. And then I went on this tear of just buying amplifiers. And so now I've got like I've got early Punch 75. Originally, the car had 3 Punch 75s in it.
Mhm.
Punch 75. Is it three Punch 75s or 3 150s? I'm trying to remember, but I think it had 3 Punch 75s in it. And
Dude, the prices of that stuff on eBay is insane.
yeah,
I mean,
so there's a
I
couple.
can't believe, because I don't think a lot of them survived.
No, well, there's also a couple of things, right? A lot of those things you have to. There's a big thing with changing the capacitors because the capacitors start to leak. I happen to be on Facebook, and there was a guy on Facebook that had like Orion amps for sale, right? Like his ad said like $1 million or whatever. So I clicked on it. He's like, I got tons of different amps and all this stuff. Let me know what you're looking for. So I hit him up and said, hey, do you have any Fosgate stuff? Well, the guy lived probably about 5 miles from me. He's like, yeah, I got some Fosgate stuff. It's for my personal collection, but I'd be willing to sell it. So I said, all right, cool. I went down to his place. Dude had everything, bro. He runs he runs a Facebook vintage car audio Facebook page, right?
Oh, wow.
And because of that, he kind of gets front access on a lot of stuff. And so he's got pretty much, you name it, he's a big Orion head. And then he had these, and what he does, he buys these amps, he sends them back east. Some guy swaps out the capacitors, because I guess over time the capacitors start to leak a little bit. And so I ended up getting these. Yeah. So the car originally had 3 Punch 75s in it. So I've been trying to track down 75s. I picked up a 150, a 75, 245s, and a Punch 30. So the Punch 30 is the really rare one. It's the Punch. They call it the Peanut. And so I've now been going down this path of just like snagging all this vintage car audio stuff. And Blake Hathaway heard me talking about it. And so he snapped me a picture of some MB Quart speakers. And he's like, here, bro, I found these in the basement of my house. And he's like, I'll just send them to you. What's your address? So
man, I remember that stuff too.
Yeah.
I used to work I worked at Circuit City we called it the 12-volt department.
Oh,
and it was like car audio, install stuff. So I did that for a while in high school. So I remember all that stuff.
Well, I worked at Circuit City when I took a break from contracting, and I was like, there's a guy I used to go see at one of the tile shops, and he's like, Bill, go back to school. Don't get stuck in this contracting. And then I ended up going to, I quit my job contracting, making like $1,000 a week. I'm like, 22 years old at the time. I mean, making really good money for 22 years old. And I went to work doing car audio at Circuit City because I did car audio back in the day.
Nothing doing that.
Bro, I
made more at Pizza Hut.
Dude, I made like, I think I was making $9 an hour. And, and it was like, I would get like $480 every 2 weeks. It was just like, but
and then you're fighting all the other guys trying to sell stuff on the like little showroom, because we had like a little.
I worked in the road shop,
but it was the display. Yeah, I worked back there too. But then we'd kind of like moonlight if we were short on salespeople, and then they would try and be like, "Hey, you can get some spiffs off of selling head units too." So like we had this demo room where they had like every speaker that we offered hooked up, and every faceplate or head unit basically. Oh, yeah. And so you could press the button and it would light up and be like, okay, I'm going to use this Sony head unit with these speakers, and then you demo it out, which was funny. But yeah, I made no money there whatsoever.
Oh yeah. I used to get surprised that people would come in and buy radar detectors and CD changers for road trips, and then come return them on Monday when they get back from the road trip.
No.
Yeah, bro. That's why all the CD changers and radar detectors were open box.
Oh my gosh. Oh, I remember that, the open box buys. That was always like the jam.
But I wanted to give a shout out to Blake Hathaway for sending these things to me. And Blake over at Lufhause, go check out their website. And they're doing this thing at Lufhause where it's the hashtag is Burn Your Oil 2024. And it says step 1, get your current mileage, your air-cooled VW. Feel free to post a pic and tag hashtag Burn Your Oil 2024. Scan the QR code and enter your information on the form. Fill out your Burn Your Oil 2024 stickers. Peel the back, cling on and adhere to your windshield. Find a fun place for your larger sticker, and then make sure you're following the at Lufthas on Instagram and Facebook. And then step 5, drive it. And if you drive it, if you're part of their their hashtag Burn Your Oil 2024 for the guys at Lufhause. If you're part of that, they'll give you, I think the prize was free oil for a year's worth of oil change oil, and that's brought to you by Rowe Motor Oil and Impy. So go check it out. I'll leave a link to the description for this in there. But I want to give a shout out to Blake. He's a listener, loves the podcast, man, and he's like, they listen to it over there. And shout out to you guys for the support. Hopefully, you guys one day will come out to the show. It's definitely a good time. Those guys are way back east. So, but shout out to Blake, man. Thanks for the stickers and that kind of stuff. And thanks for the MB Quart speak. He's like, hey, bro, I know you're into vintage car audio. So I found these in my basement, dude. I'm going to send them to you. They're like in the box and all this stuff. I was like, yeah, cool. Send it.
Wow.
So
what happened to that too? Like, that's another aspect of like the 80s and 90s that just went away. Like, I remember that was always a big deal, was like, oh, who's going to show up with the big system this year? I mean, I remember in Texas, the VW shows I used to go to when I was a kid. I mean, there would be like, you know, VWs with like these crazy builds. I mean, like 815s in like a weird, like diamond shaped box that covered the whole back half of the car. And like, you know, the buses, you could fit, you know, 18s in the buses, and like all that kind of went away too, which is kind of weird.
Yeah. If you look at Kenny Fitzer's car, right? Kenny Fitzer's car, his bus, Wet Dream, was sponsored by Alpha Sonic. And so he had all Alpha Sonic stuff in there. He had like 412s or something like that, and a bunch of amps and all this stuff. And
right. Which, I mean, perfect like advertising platform for a car audio place is a bus. I mean, look at all the stuff you could stuff in that, you know?
Well, and there was also the bus that was on, it was early 90s pink bus that had what was the brand of speakers in that thing? It was like Lanzars or something like that. It had a bunch of Lanzar 8s under the seat. So it was
was that the one that was on the cover of VW Trends?
Yes.
It was kind of like a peachish, pinkish, and white, sitting on Fuchs, and I think it had like air ride suspension or like hydraulics probably back then. But it was a really cool bus because they had it pictured like with all of its different positions that they could put the suspension like. Yeah,
they had like.
But I remember that was a really cool bus.
Yeah, and that may have been something that had like air shocks or something on it. But
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but you know, there was a whole thing, and there was always. And that's one of the things, like when I had my Volkswagen, I was like, dude, I can't wait. I'm going to put my, you know, I had like, you know, and so what the setup was for stereo systems, you know.
So many kinds, where can we start?
So if you're looking at that video right there, the cars that go boom, that video has mini trucks and bugs in that video.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that video is such a snapshot of like SoCal in that era. It's a great video. Like.
But, you know, that's another thing that people stopped doing, was doing stereos. And one of the things that I told when I was talking to Andy, I said, no, dude, I want a system in that. Like since we're doing stock motor, like stock-ish motor, I want a system, and I want, you know, like a good system in that thing. So we did some focal speakers, and he's got a Bluetooth connection that's tied into the factory head unit. And
that's so cool.
And we put Hyphonics amps to go with the Greek theme, the power of the gods. And
nice.
Jay over there, dude, did such a freaking dope job of installing it. It was nuts. Yeah, it was the issue that we're talking about was the 1991, September 1991 VW Trends magazine with the girl that she's wearing her little white pumps and the French cut bikini bottom and the lace top, and she's leaning.
That girl was gorgeous. I had such a crush on that. I don't remember her name, but like she was. Oh man, like
leaning on the peach bus. Yeah.
Yeah, that one did it for me. Yeah.
But
that high-waisted swimsuit stuff from that era, like
it's the French cut, bro. The French. Know what you're talking about? It's the French
that's
cut.
Where it's at. That's where it's at.
But you know, I remember one of the systems that I had in my car when I first. So I was because I did car audio. And I was really into it as far as the different equipment, but because I had a Volkswagen, I liked compact. I liked single amp systems, right? And there was always like, oh, this one car is running, you know, 18 speakers off a single punch 45 and whatever. But I liked more, like I really like 5-channel amp systems or 4 channels that could be bridged into 3 channels. And I remember one of the systems that I always had Alpine head units. There was nothing but Alpine. And matter of fact, for my chop top, I have an Alpine head unit, and I scored off of Facebook here in town. I scored an Alpine CD changer, 12 shuttle CD changer. So I'm going to load all my old school CDs in that when I finish the system in that. So I got to take some time and really do the system, put the CD changer. I'm contemplating doing a center console in the car right now so that I could put.
Oh, that would be cool. Did it have one originally?
It didn't. So normal, what it had before was in the magazine. It had like a, on the lower, just below the dash, it probably had a piece of an MDF fascia board that probably dropped down about 8 inches, and it had face mounted,
okay,
flush mounted head unit and some stuff like that on the right hand side. Originally, it was a piece of wood that went about 2 inches, and it curved to the drop part in the center of the dash and went straight to the right. And you had a two knob Alpine in there before. Probably could have been the 7166, which was my two knob of choice, but it had that, and then there was a couple other iterations where it ended up getting some other stereo equipment where it ended up with the full Fosgate system, and that was a pretty full system in that thing. And I've really been excited to kind of get back to the point where I'm going to start putting the system. So I've collected all the parts and pieces. I don't have the 3-punch 75s, but I'm going to do a 150 for the sub and 245s for the front and rear fill. So that's my plan for that. And I'm going to be using probably a early 2000s Alpine head unit. I've got one that's got a lot of built-in features, built-in electronic crossover, built-in just about everything on it. The technology that they had in head units later in the 2000s was just crazy. So I do actually have like a flip down Alpine with the TV screen and all that stuff, but
oh yeah,
I don't know where I don't know where I'm doing that. But what was it? So you had a bug. I remember seeing your picture of your bug with your airbrushed on your front. I think, did you have a system in your bug?
I mean, you couldn't really call it a system. I had bought some stuff from Circuit City for it. I think I had like 4 6x9s in a box in the back. And I think I had a 10-inch sub at one point, but it was nothing like what my friends had. Like, I had a friend that had an early, I think it was like a 90 or a 91 CRX, and he actually was sponsored by Rockford Fosgate. And I mean, he would get in that thing and crank it up. And I remember his go-to song was Ace of Base. He loved, he wore that Ace of Base CD out, dude. And I was more like, I was into like gangster rap. Like I wore the Chronic out. I loved Ice Cube. I loved like some of the old
you're a little more
stuff.
You're a little more new school, bro, because for me it was this was like my jam back in the day was some of the whoa so a little bit of Eazy-E.
Oh yeah, of course, Eazy-E, yeah.
But I was I think my test jam, I think a lot of the test jams were like Soul to Soul, that Back to Life. That was one with some pretty good bass, and it was like you could check the clarity. I'm trying to think what my go-to jam was, because there was always like the, you always try to do the impressive MCADE, and if you didn't have
Two Live Crew was pretty fantastic for bass.
Yeah, there's a lot. So when I played that music, did you hear anything, or you didn't hear it?
No, I didn't hear it.
Okay, so it's just
on your end.
It's just on my side. So, but yeah, MCADE was always the jam that you played when you're trying to impress people with your bass. And then there was the woofer excursion test that we did. But I liked. I'm trying to think of my jam that I would go to, because there was always like your like for cruising around that time, it was like Keith Sweat was like, if you were cruising.
Oh, Keith Sweat, come on, dude.
Bro,
I wore that one out too.
Keith
man.
Sweat.
I love me some Keith Sweat.
Keith Sweat had some serious bass. Like, and then if you wanted your highs, you had to kick on some freestyle, bro, like some Debbie Deb or something. Like Stevie B, bro, I wore out the Stevie B CD, dude. Like that was like,
I remember Stevie B. Yeah,
bro, that was good. That was real good stuff. So
yeah, Debbie Deb. Anytime I'll do a post about Bad Temper 2, like I'll always do like Lookout Weekend by Debbie Deb, because that's like what they all listen to, like in the logoed 80s house party scene of like East LA. Like that was their jam. But,
no question.
well,
No
Expose
question.
was also great.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I loved all that stuff. But then I did like a hard left, man. I got really into like Ice Cube, and I loved NWA and Eazy-E, and then like everybody kind of branched out, and then like I timed it right. Like I saw the Chronic, and then I saw like the whole Death Row Records thing happen, and then Tupac, and then Biggie, and like I remember all of that. Like that was, and my mom was not happy. I remember I had to buy so many of those CDs like two and three times because if she would find that stash, and that little, if it had the parental advisory explicit lyrics on it, like into the trash it went, and there were no questions asked. But I'd just go buy another one at Hastings, if you remember Hastings. That was like our local place. But
yeah, we had
you are now about to witness
we had Tower Records, so
yeah
it was
so funny.
There were so many different with NWA and the evolution of that, like Jackin' for Beats was one of the pretty dope jams. There's a lot. I mean, there's a lot of tunes back there that were kind of the test tunes, and I for sure going back to Cali was a test tune without question.
Oh yeah,
because and there was also Too Short, bro. Freaky Tales.
Yeah, Too Short was
bro.
Awesome.
I put that on the other day, dude.
That.
I'm like, I started listening. I was like, oh, bro, this song's not that bad. Then I was like, oh yeah, it's pretty bad, bro. But it was like you're young and you're cruising that, dude. You're like, yeah, bro, who's listening to this? Or some Third Bass on there. Yeah.
Third Bass. Oh my gosh. Bro. Yep, I remember that.
Words of wisdom, bro. Words of wisdom.
Yep.
But
that's good times, man. Well, it's funny because like, I don't, again, showing our age, but like you can't even understand what like rappers nowadays are even saying. Like it's all mumble and blah. Like at least you could understand the words back then. Although I gotta say, like I do like Kendrick Lamar. Like Kendrick Lamar nowadays is he's got.
Well, listen, he's got one hit where he stole Everlasting Bass. The line for Everlasting Bass.
That's the jam. Yeah, that is. And it's funny. I just read an interview with them about it, and they purposely did not ask permission. Like he said that he had heard the guys from that group had heard
Rodney and Joe Cooley.
Yeah. They wanted permission from them, but they purposely did not tell them that Kendrick Lamar was going to be on it. I think he just thought it was going to be Future and Metro. But yeah, it was interesting. And then he said, as soon as he heard it with Kendrick's verse, it was just like, oh my gosh, it was, pretty amazing. But
yeah, that's
a great song though. It is a great song.
But
I think is the name of the song. It's a good jam.
Yeah, there's a lot of there's just a period of time where it was like you had your system, your car was your full thing on display. It's like just cruising your car and being a lowered bug. Even if it was a hoopty, bro. Like I had mine was primered, ugly as butt. Yeah. My first one was ugly as butt, bro, and it had but I had Ford Grabber blue smoothies on it because I had some. That's what I used to paint the smoothies up, so it kind of looked kind of cool.
Well, that's what's funny because like that was the color of my car was that Grabber blue. Like you saw that picture with the airbrush shirt, like that's Ford Grabber blue on that car, which is like that was kind of the color back then too. Like everyone did that color, which is funny.
Well,
did you have the visor with the CD thing, or did you have the full book with like the zipper? Like what did you have?
No, the book, dude. You gotta have a book, bro. Every Friday night there's a place called Odyssey Records on the Strip. It was right by just past the Stratosphere, and every Friday night you would just have an excuse to cruise down the Strip, go to Odyssey Records, and then at the time we were buying cassettes, bro. This is before CDs. We'd go buy like a single EP. I remember we got one.
Oh yeah, the singles. I remember those for sure.
I remember getting one from Uzi Boys, bro, and it was trash, dude. Like Uzi Boys, this sounds lethal, dude. Let me get this. It was like right in the garbage, dude. That cassette went, but when CDs came out, it was like that was kind of my thing. Like every Friday, every payday, I'd go buy a CD. Like just go get something from one of the something new. And
I remember wearing out Outcast, Southern Playalistic. That was a really good single. I remember like that was a good bass song too. That
Yeah.
was it's funny because a lot of these guys are still around, but
Yeah.
man, those were the days. I couldn't even imagine being in Vegas. Like, I mean, my cruise was like Midland Drive. I lived in West Texas at the time when I was in high school, and like you went up to like Sonic, you made a couple rounds around Sonic, and then you drove back down the other way.
No,
But like Vegas, come on. I mean,
Vegas
stop.
was nuts, bro. When I say it was nuts, dude. So imagine dudes in Z Cavaricis drive. I remember these dudes were driving. These dudes drive a Cressida, and it was like, you gotta remember, this is also like I remember there's this whole switch during the gangster rap era, like right in the early '90s. And then half the kids named Trevor you went to school with thought they were gangbangers. And then it's
Of
like
course.
you're on the strip, and all of a sudden you're seeing like fights break out or whatever.
Oh yeah.
And but I remember
the cross colors on. Everything was like red, green, and yellow. You remember?
Yeah, they had. I mean, it was just going. So you'd cruise down the strip, right? And there used to be businesses on the strip. Like right now, it's all resorts and hotels, and there used to be like businesses and shopping strip malls, stuff like that on the strip. So you could like cruise into where the McDonald's is now. There was like 12 parking spaces across the front, and that was like the spot, bro. If you got a spot right there, you're right after Circus.
You're gonna post up and be on display, like all the chicks that drive by see your car.
My boy Darren, one of my good buddies, Darren DeMaya, that's where I met him, dude. I rolled up in there, and we're just standing next to each other, and we're just ripping on people, dude. Like we're just watching people walk by, checking out here come the mini trucks. Here come, one of the things the dudes in the mini trucks used to do is they'd turn their windshield squirter sideways. And as they'd cruise down the strip, they'd be squirting people with water. People would have no idea where they're getting squirted from. And the mini truckers, for cruise, they would just turn their squirter sideways and push the button and just squirt people walking on the strip.
It was such a simpler time then, right?
Well,
things we did.
Yeah, I mean, it was different, but it was also at the time. It was pretty, to get a ride to the strip, like before you're 16, bro, you're like some twerp in the back of somebody's car. You're riding, like you're squinched up in the back of a 620 extra cab, like some kind of
sideways seat.
Yeah. Like you're being human trafficked just to get up to the strip and,
right.
Do whatever it takes. And then once you get out of the car, you stretch yourself out, go and get McDonald's, get yourself a cheeseburger. And there was always even back then, there was always like a homeless dude hanging outside there, whatever, some kind of creeper.
Oh yeah.
But
now would like the mini trucks, would they like pop their beds and like
spin them? Oh, fully.
Like, that was all going on.
Dude, I'm telling you right now, in the 80s on the strip, there would be 50 custom cars, like mini trucks and bugs and stuff like that. But Vegas was huge with mini trucks. It was like when you went to high school, you'd see 10 mini trucks to one Volkswagen, so
wow.
There was a lot of that on the strip. And then there was also dudes with like their big Blazers and stuff like that. And, so you had mini trucks, you had full size trucks. And back then the square bodies were not as cool as they are today.
Right.
And so if you had a big square body 2-door Blazer,
what's funny is like
cool.
Here in Albuquerque, like I don't know if it's just that they're so behind the times or just like people are so desperate that they're still driving cars from like 20 years ago. But I saw a Maxima the other day, like on Dayton's. I was like, that's crazy. Like I remember those days when like the Japanese sedans, like newer Japanese sedans started kind of being a thing. And you see like 5.0 Mustangs with like the little 13-inch Daytons, but the ones that like stick way out, they're like 13 by 8s or something.
Yeah, no.
And then they put the chrome like fender arch trim on there.
The chrome rocker trim, the chrome rocker trim across. I have an S10 Blazer. I have an S10 Blazer here that I'm planning to work on. I was in California one weekend and I saw a black S10 Blazer, like 2-door. It was slammed for back then, right? It had like a 5.7 drop kit on it or whatever it was.
Right.
And then IROC wheels on it, fully polished IROC wheels, 16-inch.
Wow.
And it had the chrome rocker panel on it. And I was like, bro, that's one day, dude. And so I found one for like $1,500 or something super cheap. And I ended up, I picked it up. And so it's sitting out here. I picked up some IROC wheels. Like I got this whole mini truck budget build thing. I've got the Datsun 720. It's on my Bill T Vegas Instagram. Datsun 720 King Cab that I picked up for $1,000, drove it home, and then it was already lowered, or the suspension is super tired, and the next day I hit some 6-hole polish with the Champ 500 style center lines with tires for like $500. So I'm $1,500 into this car, and the Blazer I'm also in a couple grand on the Blazer, but the Blazer just needs to get lowered. I got it running, put a new tank in it. I got some new rubber and stuff for it, but you know, I'm gonna try to get everybody I can to just get together and just recreate the late 80s, early 90s strip cruise time.
That would be so cool. Now, did the rag top that was sitting on phone dials ever get any strip action?
So crazy enough, I may have cruised a strip in it once or twice. I didn't put a lot of mileage in that car. That's because, so we were talking about my original 63 that I put a post up. I mentioned it last podcast when we were talked about it, and I got a story to follow up on that. So my 63, it was a polar silver with phone dials and, you know, fully polished phone dials, tweed interior, replica billet machine knobs that looked just like the stock knobs, but they were billet and high polished. And I forget the name of the company. It was a Billet Bugs, I think was the company that made those. And that was like my dream car, like all done. And then I had this big 2276 in it, super flow heads, high compression, close gear tranny, driving it.
You had super flow heads on that car?
Yeah. It was everything was over the top, right? So I drove it, and then I was like, I can't deal with this tranny because my friend Jim Barbeau built the transaxle. That's what he did here in Vegas. And so he put Hewlin gears in it. So all the gears in it were straight cut. So driving it was all steel mounts. So it was like super loud, like 45 miles an hour. I'm in fourth gear. And I was like, yeah, this is not going to work. So pulled the trans out, swapped it. And then I was like, yeah, she's still pretty peppy. So I called my buddy Jim. I said, bring your car out. Let's drag race right here in front of the shop. So it's like 9:00 at night. We line them up, and I go to rip it, and I just locked up the motor, bro. And I was like,
are you serious?
I'm done with this car. I'm done. I've been building it for all these years, and I did this and did that, and I'm just mad, right? So I'm all fired up about this whole thing, and I just said, and this is 1996, 97, I sell the car. I sell the car with no engine for $3,500. Now
it had a stock tranny in it at this point. You'd already taken the.
It had a freeway flyer trans, but no motor. So imagine in 1996, 97, you're buying a bug for $3,500 with no engine. I mean
that's strong money.
That's strong money, right? But that's how nice the bug was. So I sell the bug, and I'm angry, and I'm like, dude, remember I was doing car stereo installations in 1995, car stereo review. Jimmy Ray Vaughan has a lime green Riviera on 54 Skylark wires, lowered. It's lime green.
Oh, that's where your Rivi love
pearl
comes
white,
from.
Yeah, pearl white tuck and roll interior. I was so mad at my bug. I'm like, dude, forget these Volkswagens, dude. I'm getting me a Riviera. And I found my Riviera. The title on, I looked at the title's in 96. This all took place in 96. And I'm like, I bought this Riviera, bone stock. Some dude's driving. Most ever paid for a car, like $1,200. I still have the Riviera today. It is a cursed car because I bought it out of anger, and it's never paying me back. So then I saw my bug again, because I built like the perfect bug for me. I was like, it was what I wanted. And then like I saw the 2004 bug in here. And the next owner I sold it to had painted it like a teal metallic, and it just like it was hideous, bro. It was so ugly, dude. It was like teal.
Well, I remember everyone was painting their colors teal back then, and then like early 2000s, it was that kind of copperish orange color from the 350Z.
No, this is ugly, bro.
Every era kind of has the color that everyone paints their car.
No, this is something they tried. She thought the lady, she put on the license plate squirrel. And then she put a stock motor in it, and it was it was like polar silver. So imagine taking polar silver and doing like a blue pearl over top. So it was hideous, dude. It was like such a weird color. And then I have a picture of it from the seeing it the 2004 bug in. And I was like, oh, look, it's my old bug. And at this time, I've got the Type 34, right? My I said 04. I had that car in 09. So in 04. I had the Bull Run bus. And so now I'm in a bus. I'm like, oh, look, check out my old car over here. And
so were you sentimental for it then when you saw it? Because that had been
no,
what?
no, I was just kind of like
7-8 years, I guess.
Yeah.
That it would have passed.
And so then I'm looking, I'm like, yeah, that's my old bug, man. Looks beat, looks a little bit tired, still looking good on the phone dials. They needed a good polish job because they're starting to haze up and all this stuff. And the story behind my 63 is I was driving my 64 bug and I just put some JL audio subs in it. And I lived in this townhouse complex, and I was like, my buddy came by, my buddy Mitch, and he's like, hey bro, let's hear the system. And I'm like, let's go around the block, dude. So I drive around the block so we don't got to bother my neighbors, and a car blows an intersection and totals my bug, dude. Like I just go for a quick ride, bro, totaled my 64. So I go to the hospital, got ruptured spleen. I got all kinds I've got scars for life. Bug was totaled. I drag it back after I get out months later. This is right before, it's like the 23rd of December, right? So I spent Christmas in the hospital, all this stuff.
Oh.
And I end up, George and I are like, my bug was decent. It was black and white two-tone, but now it's just totaled. Like it's bent, dude. The roof line is split from the body. So George and I go to a place called Larry's Auto Wrecking. And so we're out there. We're just looking like, oh, maybe I don't know what we were thinking, bro. I don't know if we were thinking for a whole nother car or what. We're like, let's go see what they got out here. We go out there and George just starts running like, dude, a rag top. And he just starts like a deer through the woods, bro. He's just like running through the junkyard. And we go and find this teal, not teal. It's like what color is 63? Like seafoam or like a blue. It's like that.
Turquoise. Yeah, it would have been like the L380 Turquoise. Yep.
Oh, but it's a blue. Is that turquoise blue? It's like Gulf blue.
I mean,
maybe.
Turquoise is turquoise in German, so it's kind of like a seafoam greeny blue color.
Yeah,
it's one of those colors that, like, depending on the light, it looks Bahama blue or it looks turquoise.
It was super light faded blue. It had been sitting in the wrecking yard. I have the receipt here for it. Matter of fact, the receipt here I have is stamped February 16th, 1992. And the receipt, it says 63 VW floor pan and front end as is. And then I wrote the VIN number on the back of the receipt, crazy enough, which is, I went through a lot with that car. I had it painted red and white. I mean, I owned it from 92 when I pulled out of the wrecking yard until.
So it was a whole car, even though they just sold it as a.
Yeah, bro. It was like no motor, wheels were missing. Like wheels were missing. I brought some dummies, towed it. I didn't have a tow bar, so we just hooked it up. My buddies. I was the stereo guy, so I did the stereos for my buddies, and my buddy AMAC had this Buick Regal, so we just put a tire between the Bug and the Buick, and we just kind of tugged it home, smashing the front end as we're doing that. Anyway,
nice.
So I saved that car from the wrecking yard. Built it, finished it, got mad, got rid of it. And then I started getting sentimental. We started talking about first cars, all this stuff. And then I talked about it on the podcast about 6 months ago. And then someone says, I get a message from a guy who says, hey, I got some information on the car because I put the VIN number out. I said, here's the VIN number for this car. See who can find whatever. So I get a lead. I get a couple bing, bing, bing. Here, these are the last 3 known addresses for the name that's tied to that car. And my source shall remain nameless. And so I said, all right, cool. So I kind of got excited. And I was like, oh, bro, I'm going to go drive out and go like I need another car, like a whole net. But there's something with this car because I saved it from the wrecking yard. It's my Corvette Summer. You know what I mean? Like that's the car, bro.
Yeah, for sure.
And anyway, I go to these 3 addresses. Those are bunk. And this is back probably around March or April this year. And then you and I are talking a couple weeks ago and you're like, bro, did you ever find that car? And then you got me all thinking about it again. So I'm sitting, getting ready to leave for work. And I have the guy's name that's previous owner. And then I search it on Facebook and then it pops up and he's in Las Vegas. And I'm like, well, the guy does paint and body work and he worked around the corner from Beetle Barn. So I remember seeing the car parked out front of this body shop. Anyway, so at a random, I just messaged this guy and I'm like, hey, so here's this, I'll read you the conversation. So the conversation goes as follows. I said, Where did you delete this? No. I know I got it here. Here we go. So I said, hey, do you own a 63 VW Bug? He says, yes, I have a 71 as well with right side steering wheel. I'm looking to eventually sell that one. What is it about the 63 VW Bug that interests you? I said, if it's this one, I built it years ago. I originally built the car in 1992 and sold it to a lady, and she painted it teal metallic, and I last saw it at the Bug-In in 2004. I built the car when I was 19, and I would be interested in buying it back. So he then sends me a picture of him in my car, chilling.
So you found your car.
I found the car, so I'm like, oh, this is crazy, bro. Sends me a picture of him chilling, hanging off the door, and he says, it's currently being repaired. I'm not looking to sell it at this moment. Maybe in a few years after all repairs are finished, I will contact you again in the future if you're still interested. I said, please do. I rescued that car from the junkyard and would love to get it back. If you're interested in any trades, let me know. I have a few other Volkswagens, a mini truck, and an S10 Blazer too. He said, at this moment, I still think no, man. I've had it for around 25 years, built many memories as well. If I do ever decide to sell it, you'll be the first person I contact again in the future. So I said, thanks.
I can't believe that car never left Vegas.
Bro,
it's crazy.
I pan off that car. Like that car's got new pan halves, 4-wheel disc brakes. It had everything, And so, yeah. So I was
you got to stay on that guy.
Well, I did. I said, hey, make sure you come to my show, October, send him the link to the show. He said, I can't take the car yet in October. It needs restoring. It'll take me a few months still. I said, bring the 71. I said, I'm still trying. I'll let you know what happens. I said, very cool. If you ever go to sell my 63, call me first. And he said, will do. So I had some mixed feelings, right? So I'm thinking, I've owned the car from 92 to 90. I owned the car for about 5 years, which in teen years is a lifetime, right?
It is.
And he's owned it for 25 years. So it's like it's my ex-girlfriend, but he married her. Right. You know what I mean? And so
I still think she's worth getting back.
And I started thinking like, well, that's kind of weird, bro, because he's actually got more connection to this car than I do,
Yes and no. I mean, who knows? Maybe the car's just been sitting in the back of his shop for the last however many years. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's hard to say.
Yeah. That's where I'm at with this thing.
He could be kind of the abusive husband, maybe. I don't know.
Well, he did drive a pretty.
Maybe she needs rescuing. I don't know.
Last time I saw it, the front license plate was kind of wrapped around the front bumper, like he pulls into parking spaces too far, and it was definitely something where I was like, yeah, it's a little like it was looking pretty tattered when I saw it last. I was like, dang, bro, this thing's roached out. Now, mind you, I'm living in bus world at this time. I got kids. They ain't fitting in that Bug, dude. And I'm like, no desire for it. And I also think like, is it like the ex-girlfriend, bro? Is it like, do you think, man, that car was so great and so this and so that. And then I get it back. I'm like, this thing was roached out. I mean, it was all new, but the paint job on it was not, for whatever reason, was lacking shine. Like there was no depth to the paint, stuff like that. And then I had a friend of mine helping with the motor. He's like, instead of the Weber windows, he's like, no, dude, I'm gonna fix this. And he took his air hammer and he cut out the side parcel trays. The part that adds rear rigidity to the car. He just cut those out. So there's big old holes. Like a Super Beetle has no side trays. That's what he did to my side trays. And so
it doesn't matter. You absolutely have to get that car back, Bill. Bro. It doesn't matter.
There's part of me that's like, yeah, I want it. But then I'm like, am I taking his lady, bro? Because he's had it for but it's like that car was like my finished dream car. And I was so mad after spending all that time and all that money on the car to blow up the motor. And then I got so mad and I'm like, no.
Yeah, I think you need to right that wrong for sure. I mean, look, you're preaching to the choir here, but like I got my 66 back after looking. I mean, that was like my first car. my mom used to drive me to like junior high school in that car. Like
Yeah.
it took me 20 years to get that car back. And that's why I was so adamant about like don't give up. Like it may still be out there. And we could do a whole episode just on like getting your first car back, right? Or,
Oh, yeah.
the one that got away. But like, I've always found that like of all the cars I've owned over the years, before I'd gotten that car back, that's the only one that I really, really cared about. I mean, I've owned original Herbies, I've owned split windows, I've owned, some pretty cool, crazy stuff over the years. But like, that was the car that I had the best memories in. That was the car that, I remember, getting hot VWs at the grocery store when I was a kid and reading it in the back or whatever. Like, I mean, that was, that's kind of like how your ragtop is for you. It's
yeah.
like you learned so much on that car. You have so many memories from that car, and it kind of ended badly. My 66, my dad sold it while I was away at college to like save the house because he lost his job. So like,
Yeah.
it ended badly. You sold it in this fit of rage, so it ended badly. So like, you got to get it back. You got to get it back.
There is a level of redemption that I'd like to get back, but we'll see. We'll see. I mean, again, right now I need it like a hole in the head. So it's kind of cool that he said no right now. Cause then my wife was just looking like, really, another one? And right now I put a couple cars up for sale. And what's interesting is a guy reached out to me that I put a Corvair up for sale, an extra 140 that I had in the backyard. Cause I'm like, nah, I got to move that. Actually, my insurance company, my guy calling from my insurance company says, hey, the homeowner's policy doesn't want to renew because you got all these cars on the side of the yard.
Are you serious?
Now I'm on a half an acre. They had a satellite photo of my house, and I've got the Corvair, a Manx, a Type 34 Ghia, and a 68 Bug on the side of my house next to a C-train container. And they shot the picture from above. And anyway, so I'm looking at these cars. I'm like, you know what? I'm not gonna. I've got my turbo Corvair, so I'm just gonna let that one go. So I put it up for sale. Guy calls me up. We get to talking, and I told him, yeah, I'm a little bit into Corvairs. I'm mostly in Volkswagens. He's like, yeah, I was kind of in Volkswagens too. We get to talk, and so he's connected. His brother is a guy that's involved with Volkswagens pretty heavily in the industry. And then we get to talk, and he sends me a picture of like a dragster from the 90s.
No way.
And he's like, did you want to trade this? And then my head's going like, yeah, that would be cool to have that dragster. I'm like, what do I need a dragster for? Like, it's a drag rail. You know what I mean? Like it is a
like huge long
I don't know
wheelbase,
what they
crazy.
are, 120 inch wheelbase. I don't know what they are, bro, but I'm looking at
They're
them
big. They're long.
I'm like, bro, that thing would be rad, but then it's a fairly popular car from the 80s. And it was just so crazy how this Corvair thing turned into like connecting with this guy and working out this, like we started talking. He's like, well, I've got this other 2.4 liter Type 4. Maybe you want these parts. I'm like, nah, bro, I don't want to trade. I just want to get rid of that car and get some cash. Just start building up some cash reserves. Cause that's what all those cars are, is like money in the bank. You know what I mean? Like,
of course,
just park it in the shape of a car. So I just threw that up for sale. And then I threw up my, I have a Myers Manx, and Kenny Fitzer, as we're talking, Kenny Fitzer just texted me. And he's working on it. He's working on a speedster car that he's building. It's pretty sick. So,
oh, that's cool.
But yeah, I threw up my Myers Manx for sale. And
is it a real Manx?
Yeah. And so this
Well,
guy,
I would think you wouldn't have any problem getting rid of that because those are
especially for 35.
You got like all the documentation from winning Myers.
No, I don't need to get all. That's for the next buyer. Can do that, but it's a real. You can tell. You can tell from the tubes underneath it's real. You can tell because they have support tubes underneath the side fairings, and then there's a couple different distinct marks. And the guy that I got it from, I was gonna build it, and then I was like, you know what, dude. I don't have time, and then I got it's got Mustang taillights to go with it, like 66 Mustang taillights, and a bunch of other stuff, and pretty much most everything to get it done. And so I threw that thing up. Some guy sent me an ad with like a chopper. You want to trade? And then I look at the chopper, and like the whole side drive is missing and all this stuff. I'm like, because for a second I felt my hair blown in the breeze, And then I was like,
thought you
bro,
were
I'm
Easy
like, bro,
Rider
I don't
for a
need,
second there.
I do not need
No,
I don't
you
need a
the
chopper.
space,
B, I don't
Bill.
need a chopper
You
project.
need a homeowner's policy is what you
I
need.
know, bro, it's
More
ridiculous.
crap.
That's ridiculous, dude.
No,
So
eyes on the prize, man. Get that 63 rack back.
Yeah.
And you know what? The guy that had my 66, like, he was adamant at first too. He's like, no, absolutely not. It's not for sale. I just stayed on him and was such a pest that finally I think I just wore him down enough that he was like, fine.
well,
And I mean, I completely overpaid for the car at the time, but I didn't care.
but
You
I
know, it
also
was worth
think,
every penny.
if you're a guy that has a car that you didn't build it, it's a cool car, you really like it, but it's like you hate to sell it, but you need the money, and you know the guy you're going to sell it to is the guy that built it. So you almost feel like, well, I don't want to sell it because I've had this car. And so I think now that I've thrown that out there, it may turn into a situation where it's like, well, I'm going to sell it, but I'll sell it to this guy who built it. So it's not like it's, staying quote unquote in the family, so.
Right. And I do believe the guy when he says, like, look, you'll be the first person I call.
No, I totally believe that, because the car means a lot to him, and he knows that.
Yeah, sure. He's going to want it to go to a good home too.
Yeah. So
and what better home than the guy that built it originally?
I just felt weird, bro, when he said, yeah, I got a lot of memories in this car. And I'm like, bro, don't get me started.
Yeah, exactly.
But again, I was thinking like, that's different. Like, is it his car? I mean, he's owned the car 5 times longer than I owned it. You know what I mean? He's going on, he's like, I've had the car for 24 years or 25. I mean, he bought it in 2003, 2004.
Right.
So that's crazy.
Why does it need paint and body work though? That's what I kind of.
Well, I mean, it's nothing's. He hasn't done anything to it in 25 years. It may be sitting outside or who knows what. But you never know, bro.
What if he gives you a call back and he's like, "All right, I'll sell it. Come and get it." You go and it's like completely factory. Now it's back to Turkish with a white rag top. And
no, dude, I've seen this guy. Listen, this guy saw that car and he's like, bro. Like, he owned that car and never touched it, dude. Like, it was exactly like, even down to little stuff that was wrong with it that he could have fixed, he didn't fix it. Like, I think he just, because that car's got a good look to it. So I think he appreciated what I did to it.
I mean, it's a Bill T custom. I mean, you can't perfect on perfection.
Bro, you can't hate on the German look before there was really a German look scene, dude. I mean, it was German look in 90s.
Bill T looker.
96, dude. The phone dials, little touch of tweed on the interior, dude. It was a good looking car, dude. When I was looking at some pictures of it the other day, I was like, dang, bro, that paint is dry, dude. Like, you need some water, dude. It was looking like no sheen in the side of that thing. But
I mean, that's what happens when you live in the desert, I mean,
yeah, bro.
This was out here in Albuquerque too.
This was fresh out the paint shop, bro. Like, fresh out the paint. Like, it was just like silver, and then like, where's the shine? Like, it was almost like it was matte finish before there was matte finish, bro.
Before matte was cool.
Right. Before matte was cool, dude. This was what that was. So, but no, I mean, I was stoked. I had a lot of emotions going on. I was stoked that I found it, but then I was kind of weird. I felt really weird when he says, I've had this car for 25 years, and then it kind of registered me like, yeah, bro, he's had a lot longer. I mean, that's why I say, is it more his car than mine? Because he's owned it for so long, you know what I mean? Even though he didn't build it, and he's, cruising the car that I built, but I still think it's, I don't know. I don't know. I just had a weird feeling, and I was like, I don't know. Is it his car?
I get it. You still want it back though. I'm telling you, like,
yeah.
I'd like to know the history of, like, so you sold it to the woman and then she sold it to this guy?
Yeah, I think it's only gone through those 2 owners.
Okay. I mean, it would have had to, because if he's had it for 25 years.
He's the same. He's the same guy that owns it that I saw at the Volkswagen, that worked at the body shop, because that's what he does for work. He's a paint and body guy. So
okay,
we'll see.
And that was right around from the Beetle Barn. How funny is that?
Oh yeah, it was like right down the street, because I was there one time. And I was like, bro, what's this car doing over here, dude? And he's like, oh, that car, that guy's a paint and body guy. I'm like, yeah, it's my old car, piece of crap. You know what I mean? Like, because I'm just mobbing around in a bus, or I think at the time when I saw it might have been 07 or 08. Yeah, it's probably 08, because I had my split, and I was at Beetle Barn, and I saw it down the street, and I'm like, 63, dude. I'm mobbing in a 51 split, dude. And then
isn't it funny though, like, how the older you get, you know, the sentimental aspect of things really starts to get to you.
Well, part
you
of
know?
the thing with that car, like when I was telling my brother, you know, you sit in the car before it's running, you're telling all these stories. Like me and George sit in the car. I'm like, I'm gonna give this car to my firstborn son.
You're gonna sell it the first moment you get mad at it.
and my son's like, I told my son that, and he's like, my son's giving me a hard time. I was like, Papa, you gotta get my car back.
Yeah, I never got my car. I'm still waiting on that bug, Dad.
It's so funny, dude. It is so funny.
No, I think you'll get it back. I mean, look, the fact that it's not like wrecked, the fact that it even still exists is pretty cool.
Yeah, no, that's cool.
Plus, it being a ragtop, that helped too. Because I mean, look, even in like the 90s and 2000s, like a ragtop was a special thing. You know,
no, it was a big deal. I mean, in those early days, like finding a ragtop seemed like the most difficult thing you could do, and now it's like, you can get whatever you want. You want a head Mueller, you get. It's just crazy how so many things have just kind of pulled straight out of no man's land. So
it is weird because I do remember being a kid and seeing like a ragtop and thinking to myself, wow, that's really special. You don't see a lot of these, but like go on Facebook Marketplace now, like you can find ragtops everywhere. Like they're fairly common now, just because all these things are getting dug out of backyards still and whatever else. So,
well, no, that's cool, bro. Well, I figured I wanted to chat about some of that stuff. So I figured who better than get on here and wrap it up with Tory, since we did that podcast talking about the car shows and all that stuff. And figured we would wrap.
I'm glad that we got some comments and everyone seems to kind of be in agreement. And look, maybe that'll be sort of the drive to change how we treat each other at car shows. And, we'll start with one crazy weekend.
Well, and I really liked what that guy said about a Young Builders Award. Like if you're a young guy, you're in the scene, and let's see if we can't build you up some kind of kind of get some more young guys in the scene by having them get special recognition for being younger guys building cars. So we'll see.
I think it's a great idea.
Well, cool. Well, right on, Tory. We'll see you in a couple weeks at One Crazy Weekend, and until next week, guys. Later.
You probably don't know that there's a new Volkswagen out that doesn't look like a Volkswagen.